Greetings, everyone. Welcome to the world of Chandamama. I'm your host, Dr. Chetan Saxena, and today again I am here with a very beautiful story from Chandamama June 2007 edition. The story's name is Akhil's Achievements. This is from the tales of King Vikram and the Vetal. The story goes. The cremation ground presented an eerie spectacle on the dark night. The moon was hidden behind the clouds and it was drizzling intermittently. The pitch darkness was relieved only by occasional flashes of lightning that lit up sombre scene, causing an eerie dance of jerky shadows in the cremation ground. Occasionally, a jackal's spine chilling howl or the blood curdling laughter of some invisible evil spirit cut into the silence that hung like a shroud over the area. Although it was a scene that would strike terror into the bravest heart, but nothing could daunt the intrepid King Vikram. Once again, he made his way to the ancient gnarled tree from which the corpse was hanging. Bones crunched under his feet, and a screeching ghost rose from the dust in the shuddering frenzy as he marched determinedly ahead. Ob- Oblivious to everything but the mission at hand, he brought the hanging corpse down by cutting the rope with his sword. Slinging it astride his shoulder, he had just begun his return journey when the vampire that possessed the corpse said, "O king, what brings you to this dreaded spot in the dead of night? Is it a desire for revenge that motivates you? I know of many who, like you perhaps, embark on an action in a fit of passion. But after a few years, the fire in them die down and they just tamely surrender to the status quo. One such person was Akhil of Hansapur. Listen to his story. The tale the vampire narrated was as follows. Hansapur was a remote village bordered by hills. The people were an uneducated lot who made their living through agriculture. They raised unconventional crops, which were not to be found anywhere else in the kingdom. They attributed their good health to the use of unusual herbs, roots, and berries in their diet. Akhil was the one person in the village who was not at all interested in agriculture. As a child, he had been taught to read by the priest of the village temple. His hobby was deciphering the ancient palm leaf manuscripts preserved in the temple. As a youth, he was a thinker who disliked the automation like lifestyle of the villages. He would say, "There is more to life than food. If man lives only to eat, what is the difference between us and animals?" But they could not appreciate the argument and dismissed him as lazy and a work shirker. Gradually, Akhil was aware that he had become the laughingstock of the entire village. Unable to endure it any longer, he told his father that he was leaving the village. His father brushed aside the matter, saying, "Going away from village is not going to help you, son. What you need is a change in your own attitude." But Akhil retorted, "This is a village of mediocre people. I have no desire to remain here and become one like them. I have decided to join the Gurukul run by the famous scholar Bhujang in the Dandakas forest. I'll study further and expand my horizon. Then I shall come back and change the face of this village. The very people who have been deriding me will treat me with honor and respect." He left the village and started walking in the direction of Dandaka forest. A 4-day journey brought him to the forest. Suddenly, a chariot overtook him and stopped. On learning that he was on his way to Bhujang's Gurukul, the charioteer offered him a lift, as he was also going there. Apparently, he was the royal charioteer sent by the king to bring Bhujang urgently to the capital. On reaching the Gurukul, Akhil sought out the Guru, bowed to him, and informed him of the purpose of his visit. The Guru said, "One of my students, Vinay, is running a Gurukul in Jambu forest. Anyone who wishes to study under me has first to complete a 2-year course with him. So you first finish a course of study there and then come back to me. Gurudev, if you have any doubt about my caliber, I have a suggestion to make. Please subject me to any kind of test as you like. I'll prove my ability. But please don't send me away arbitrarily without testing me, begged Akhil. Moved by his entreaty, the Guru said, "Very well, I am leaving for the capital right now. It will take me a week to return. Meanwhile, I shall leave these two books with you. Stay back and study them thoroughly. When I return, I shall question you about them. If I find that you have understood their essence, I shall take you on as my student. Otherwise, you will have to go to Vinay." He then handed over two palm leaf manuscripts to Akhil before leaving for capital. After he had gone, the other students in the Gurukul approached Akhil and said, "We have been studying these very books under the Guru's guidance for the last 2 years. Still, we haven't been able to grasp their content. So, how can you understand them in just 1 week? It's an impossible task that you have taken on." But their warning failed to dampen Akhil's enthusiasm. Undeterred, he declared, "I shall take it up as a challenge to prove my worth." Then he set to work to study the manuscript. After 4 days of study, he managed to grasp the essence of the books and summarize them in an essay. He then showed his essay to the other student, but they did not bother to go through it. Instead, they took his confidence for arrogance and made fun of him. But Akhil calmly said, "Your mockery does not hurt me. I'm used to being laughed at. In fact, your attitude is quite similar to that of the people of my village. The only difference is that you are educated fools while they are uneducated fools." At the end of the week, Guru Bhujang returned from the capital. Akhil met him and gave him his essay. On reading it, the Guru was surprised and delighted. He exclaimed, "Son, you are great indeed. These works are so obscure that even scholars are struggling to find their meaning, but you have grasped their essence and summarized it so lucidly. I shall be honored to have you as my student." "Gurudev, are you really serious or are you making fun of me?" asked Akhil doubtfully. "Making fun of you? Not at all. I am very earnest," the Guru assured him. He then told him of all that had transpired in the capital during the previous week. The king's mother had been beset by an unusual disease. None of the eminent physicians in the kingdom had come across anything like it. All the medicines they prescribed had failed to cure her. Finally, one of the court poets had produced an obscure manuscript of a poem, which had been with his family for generations. The heroine in the poem was described as having been afflicted by an ailment whose symptoms resembled those of the disease that had struck the king's mother. The treatment of the disease, a mixture of rare herbs, was also described in the poem. But the description was couched in such obscure language that the physician could make no sense of it. Then the king had remembered Bhujang and hoped that being a celebrated scholar, he perhaps would be able to decipher it. That is why the king had summoned him. But Bhujang too had been unable to understand it. So he had asked the king's permission to study the manuscript in detail for a week and had brought it with him. Now seeing Akhil's acumen, he passed it on to him, asking him to read it and see if he could make something out of it. Akhil went through the passage carefully. Then he pointed to one particular word in the text and said, "Gurudev, this word has two meanings. Most people tend to take only the first meaning, as the second is obscure and known only to language scholars. But in this context, I think it is the second meaning that makes sense." The Guru read through the indicated passage and realized that Akhil was right. The text did indeed make sense now when he used the word in its less known sense. "Well done, Akhil," he complimented. "But there is another problem. Where will we go for all these herbs? To the best of my knowledge, most of them are not being grown anywhere in this kingdom." "That's not a problem, Gurudev," said Akhil, beaming. "The people of my village specializes in raising rare herbs. All these herbs mentioned in the book can found in my village." The very next day, Bhujang led Akhil to the king. He was very happy to hear Akhil's news. He sent his men to Hansapur to collect the necessary herbs. The medicine was prepared under Akhil's supervision and administered to the king's mother. In no time, she looked hale and hearty. The grateful king honored Akhil at a public function and gave him a handsome reward. Akhil returned to Bhujang's Gurukul, where he spent the next 2 years studying the manuscript. Finally, he went back to Hansapur. By then, he had become famous all over the kingdom as a great scholar. But the people of Hansapur refused to acknowledge that he had done anything noteworthy. They commented, "You haven't changed at all. It is just your good luck that has brought your name and fame." Akhil settled down to his old lifestyle in Hansapur. As before, the people of the village continued to mock at him. But he was not disheartened. He soon started his own Gurukul, where he enrolled the children of the village and taught them the things he had learnt. Concluding the story at this point, the vampire demanded, "O king, Akhil left Hansapur because he was unable to tolerate the mockery and intolerant attitude of the villagers. Why then did he go back the same place and stay on there despite the fact that the villagers continued to mock at him? Was it because his experiences had hardened his mind and given him more courage? He had gone away swearing to change the face of the village on his return. Why then did he change his own attitude instead? If you know the answer to my question, speak out. Otherwise, your head shall shatter into smithereens." Without hesitation, King Vikrama replied, "When one is subjected to constant criticism, he loses his self esteem and begins to doubt his own worth. This was what happened to Akhil in the beginning. The mockery of the people of his village angered him so much that he decided to leave. But when his talent was recognized and praised by illustrious people like Guru Bhujang and the king, his self confidence was boosted. Thereafter, he regarded the people of his village not so much with anger as with pity. He returned to the village with the hope of changing the mindset of the people. But he soon realized that this was an illusion. The people would never change, but children are easier to teach and less resistant to change than adults. So he worked to bring about a change in Hansapur through its future citizens, the children. Thus, he proved himself to be a wise and mature person. On hearing this, the vampire nodded in approval before going off into peal after peal of thunderous laughter. The next moment, he, along with his corpse, moved off the king's shoulder with a jerk and flew back to the ancient tree. King Vikram gave a little sigh as he gazed upon the scene. Then he squared his shoulders and retraced his steps towards the tree. And that is the end of the story. Next time we are going to meet up with another beautiful story from Chandamama. Till then, goodbye. Thank you.